Hello and welcome to the No Balls podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald, with me, co-host Sheldon Kaufman. Today will be a trade deadline preview episode. We'll go over a couple other things that are going on because it's been a couple weeks since our recap episode, but not a full recap episode. That'll be next week's episode. First of all, trivia question. What do we have today, Sheldon?
All right, Pat. You've been doing pretty good with them, so I'm trying to maybe throw you a curveball here. We're gonna go to the '90s for this one. What player? This is also a new genre of question. What player was nicknamed the Glide?
Um, okay. Thankfully, I do know this one. This is Clyde Drexler.
All right, good. All right,
So.
that was a good one. I maybe should have gone with a harder person, but I'll tip my hat to you.
Yeah, he was fake Jordan. That's what he was. Um, yeah. So I guess that starts us. We're gonna go over the All-Stars really soon or right now, they were revealed. The starters were revealed about a week ago, and then the reserves came out more recently than that. As we see here, I don't think we went over the starters, but we went over the voting.
Yeah.
Giannis, Brunson, Tatum, Mitchell, and Towns are the starters in the East. Starters in the West are Steph, KD, LeBron, Shea, and Jokic. Open it up. What do we have on either of the starting groups?
Yeah, LeBron and Curry being there as a starter is very, very interesting to me. Um, like I think Anthony Edwards deserves a starting spot over Curry. AD not getting it, but LeBron I thought was a little bit interesting. Um, Especially because Anthony Davis is him and Wemby are front runners for that Defensive Player of the Year award, and Anthony Davis is also doing really good offensively. And I mean, he's the better player on the same team. So just based off that's just in the West. Scroll up a little bit for the East. Yeah. I'm okay. I like this. I'm very okay with this. Um, Not too many complaints with the starters.
Yeah, me as
What about
well.
you, Pat?
Yeah, I felt the same way with you. Like LeBron in the East or in the West. I don't really like LeBron as a starter because I would have rather had AD, Wemby, Jalen Williams, and Jaren Jackson start over him.
Yep.
So there's that, and then like I think you could argue for Sengun and then like Sabonis, who didn't even make the All-Star game, that I would rather have them start over LeBron. So that's the big one that points out to me. I understand the Steph one too a little bit. Um, I think he's been All-Star caliber. If you want to argue over him, I don't really hate that. So yeah, I feel very similar to you in that aspect. On the East side, I felt like there was a ton of guards and none of them really differentiated themselves. I think this goes further than just the starters. I think Brunson, Mitchell, Cade Lillard, Garland, Tyler Hero, LaMelo Ball, Trae Young, like they were all kind of really similar. So I don't know how I would have cut that up, honestly. And then I understand Brown's a guard, but he had to have made it as a forward, right? Like
Yeah.
I I don't see
There's
Jalen
like
Brown.
five guards on this reserve team. But yeah, I think Jalen Brown's more of like a forward type, and yeah, I think they would put Jalen Brown as a front court player.
Yeah, because if you look on the Celtics team, like Jalen Brown is playing the three, like a good percent of the time. I'll pull up the percentage on Basketball Reference, but like it's got to be like close to like 80% of the time he's playing the three, I would think, with Wyatt Holiday, Pritchard, and just other guys that they have out there. Yeah, it's 72% he's playing the three.
Yeah, so definitely a front court type of guy.
Yeah.
Um, so do you think? What are your thoughts about Lamelo and Trae Young being left off, and Tyler Hero getting the nod? Because Trae Young, I think if I'm mistaken, he should be the leader in assists, and he's also averaging at over 20 points. And then LaMelo led the fan voting by like a million or something in the hundreds of thousands. So I just wanted to know what you kind of thought about that. That those guys
Yeah,
didn't get a nod. I mean, it's hard. Like, I don't know. I feel like Tyler Hero sneaking in over them. I feel like maybe you could have gone Trey or LaMelo over Tyler Hero.
yeah, I would have been fine with them not like making, making the team, but like I just don't agree with the hero over those guys
Yeah.
argument. Um, I think like the Dame stuff as well, like the Bucks are outscoring teams by zero point 0.8 points when Dame's on the floor, and then when Dame's off the floor, they're outscoring teams by like 4.8 points.
Yeah.
And like you can make arguments with some guys. I think the Mitchell, or I think Garland has some similar numbers just because they can stagger lineups really well, and I think Brunson similarly. Like some of the on-off numbers can look kind of weird just because those teams are still really good when those guys go to the bench.
Hmm.
But with Dame, like they're not that talented of a team. Um,
Especially at
so
the guard position.
yeah, so like I could have seen anybody. I could have made an argument for LaMelo and Trey over Dame, and I think that would have been perfectly fine to make. Um, were there any other like forward center guys who were commonly called snubs in the East?
Maybe scroll up a little bit. Let me see.
Uh,
Jared Allen not making it. Maybe you could say
yeah,
Evan, but it's hard because Evan Mobley. Um,
like are you gonna give the Cavs four starters?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they're good, man. Hold on.
And like Paolo and Franz, I think were two notables, but like
I don't think could they have even made it.
I don't think they could have. I don't think they played enough. And
Oh,
then
Tyrese Maxey's not on there. Wow, I didn't even
yeah,
notice that. Yeah, Maxey not over. I think Tyler Hero is a very controversial. I think Dame and Tyler Hero are the most controversial on that East All Stars like reserve list that made it. I think we're in agreement on that.
yeah, I think those would have been the first two guys that I would have bumped, but like I don't think they're like miles better or miles behind a lot of the other guys is
Yeah.
the big thing. Um,
Let me see. Name a couple others. Derek White, Jalen
yeah,
Johnson. Does Jalen Johnson not? I guess it's hard
he's
because
hurt now,
he is
but
hurt.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Definitely Sabonis on the. If we're talking about the West, Domantas Sabonis.
yeah.
I
I
I
think
don't know. I think
Kyrie's
that's the
come up a
biggest one.
lot.
I'm seeing like Kyrie, and I guess you could make a case for that. John Morant, did De'Aaron Fox not make it too? Okay, wow. I feel like Steph. I don't know. I don't. Steph Curry being a starter, I think is probably the biggest problem I have because I feel like there's guys that didn't make it that should made it over Curry, and Curry's starting. I don't know.
Yeah, I would have said that LeBron starting is kind of the big thing for me.
Yeah, yep. That makes complete sense too.
Because if LeBron doesn't isn't like automatically in because he's a starter, then like we can put Sabonis in the All-Star game and we can start
Yeah,
Wemby or AD who should be starting. Um, yeah, I mean that's the real complaints I would have. Honestly, I think the All-Star game needs to be expanded by a couple spots just because there's so many guys now, and we've had the same amount of All-Star spots for like 30 years now before a ton of expansion teams came in the league. Um, so we
they should
probably
make
need
it
a
like a
couple
12
spots.
man, right? It should be 24-24.
Wait, well,
Is that not what it is?
it's already it's already 12 in each
Oh, I'm
conference.
slow. I'm slow. I read that and I thought that those were like the starters or something. I forgot there was five other guys up there.
Yeah,
My bad.
yeah.
So
Um,
Forget I said that.
I think we could bump it up to 14 in each conference, and it would be pretty
Yeah.
good.
There's some like I saw Norman Powell and snub things. I think he had a really good year. I don't know if he could have made it. I don't
Yeah,
think he would have made it. Jordan Poole, I don't think he would have made it either. So I mean, there's some guys. I'm really happy James Harden got a nod. Um, Especially it's good to see that he's getting recognition for some of the work that he's been doing. Victor Wembanyama, first All Star. He didn't make it last year, right?
yeah, he didn't make it last year.
So I mean, there's a lot of names in here that's just like nice to see. Your boy Jalen Williams, I'm really happy he wasn't left off.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm glad Jaren Jackson made it. There's a lot of guys over here. I think the West, they did a really good job at the West. I think there's a lot more maybe turmoil or just like not really feeling the decisions. But overall, a really good group of all-star starters. And it'll be interesting to see how the games shake up, um, especially with the dunk contest, the three-point contest. I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to that.
yeah. In the this week, we'll actually live stream, maybe not live stream, but shortly after it comes out, we'll post our reaction to the All-Star Game draft. Because that's a new thing
Thursday,
that's happening.
Thursday,
Yeah,
February 6th.
yeah. So it should be out like that night. We'll have our reaction to that, and that should be like something that's really fun. Because that's a completely new thing. Uh, so that'll be something really fun. Just throwing that out there. Do you have any other All Star stuff before we I guess get started with trade deadline talks?
Nah, I think I'm good. Um, I was happy that the Wizards at least had someone in contention. Just to
It
see
is
the
like
Jordan Poole
that.
propaganda was a little bit fun. So, but yeah, I think I said my piece.
Doing a transition to Wizards trade talks thing because I had written down at least names that we should talk about, and Wizards guys was one of my notes.
Hmm.
So as resident Wizards fan, I'll let you have it first. Like, how do you feel about this team going
I'm
into the
looking at
deadline?
two main trade pieces. I think a lot of guys were. I think we had a lot more tradable guys at the beginning of the season, and now it's like we just don't. They're not like they haven't. They either haven't played or they played themselves out of trade talks. Namely Corey Crispert, Malcolm Brogdon, Sadiq Bey, kind of guys like that. That could make impacts on team, but Brogdon has barely played at all. Um, and Corey Crispert, like I said, played himself out of that kind of talk. But the main two guys I'm looking at here are Jonas Valanciunas and Kyle Kuzma. Uh, Kuzma averaging 14 points a game, 5 rebounds, and he's shooting 27%. It's a from the 3-point line. It's a down year for Kuzma, but recently he's been shooting a little bit better. Main teams I'm looking at here are the Kings and the Heat. The Kings, could you like when Kuzma's not in a role where he has to chuck shots all the time, he is very good. He'd be able to be a knockdown shooter and drive to the basket if you need him to. Um, and I think that would be a really good element for the Kings, who don't really have the. They definitely need to add some 3-point shooting. DeMar DeRozan not really getting done from that aspect, and just guys off the bench. I think even if you put Kuz on an off the bench role or even start him, it would be pretty interesting. And maybe DeMar could go back to like a more of like a 2 role. Um, then you have and then maybe bring Monk back off the bench. It would just add a lot more depth to this team.
Yeah,
I think so. That's my first guy. Oh, also the Heat. Maybe the Wizards get in on some of the Jimmy Butler stuff. And end up trading Kuz in a 3-team deal to another team, and then something like that. But I could see him maybe going to the Heat to replace Jimmy Butler and not have to, but like kind of Jimmy Butler's wing style. Um, I think he could do a good job of replicating that. And he would not be like he would have no problem playing third fiddle to Bam and Tyler Hero. I think it could be really nice, and it would make him not have to do as much. And I think it would make his efficiency be a lot better. The second guy I want to talk about is Jonas Valanciunas. He's averaging 11 and 8 off of 26% shooting. So again, the 3-point shooting not really there like it used to be. But the main guy I'm looking here for is maybe the Lakers, a team that really needs center help. I don't think this is their first option, as there's going to be a couple guys we talk about that they're probably going to be looking at. But I think the Lakers are definitely an option. In the Warriors, guys that really need true like big burly centers. Um, and Jonas Valanciunas, he's been coming off the bench. He's been starting, so he can really do whatever you need him to. I don't think he would have too much of a problem if he has to come off the bench. But I think if he goes to the Lakers or Warriors, he could be a starter right away.
Yeah, both of those guys come up for a lot of teams because in Kuzma's case, it is $22 million, but that's still pretty movable. I mocked it up just a second ago for the Kings. They could send out Kevin Herter, who's making 17 million, and then Trey Lyles, who's making 8 million. Kuzma would more or less just replace what Trey Lyles is doing off the bench, and then they could also take on Corey Kispert if they want to, because they have a mid-level exception that the Kings can eat into. Uh, that's something potentially. I'm sure there would have to be something sent to the Wizards to entice them to take that deal, but that is a possibility. Like you mentioned, Jonas is interesting. I think it would have to be the right team to take on Jonas because the defensive deficiencies. I think even on the Wizards this year, Jonas has a negative on off, and like that's kind of crazy. But a lot of it is like their defense doesn't even come close to competing with Alex Sarr out there. So there can be a little bit of muddy numbers there. But either way, like there has to be the right fit for Jonas as well. You're muted.
I think the Lakers would be a great fit just because of AD running that four kind of would make up for the deficiencies of Valachunas. I'm thinking maybe. Um,
Maybe.
I agree. I'm with you. Right fit. I don't think Jonas. I think Jonas is like a one to two team fit. I I thought we were gonna trade him at the beginning. I was a lot more optimistic about getting a decent return. But now I think that Kuzma is really the only piece we're looking to trade or can trade.
Yeah,
Because I
to a
don't think
bunch of
anybody
teams.
wants anyone else.
And like one of the few teams I would have thrown out for Jonas as well is the Clippers, and they just made a move for um, Drew Eubanks to be their backup center.
Really? I didn't. I never caught that.
This morning it happened.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah. Any more Wizards before we get into some of the main names?
No, we can get into those.
All right, you had mentioned them because Kuzma, the Sacramento, there is a glaring there's a ton of rumors coming out with De'Aaron Fox. He has 1 year after this year on his contract remaining. And it said that they're going to look to trade him. I guess I'll let you have your words first. I drew up a mock trade for them. What do you have first on De'Aaron Fox?
First, this is one of the guys. I know it's a big name. There's a lot of rumors. I don't really think the Kings are going to trade him. I think they're going to end up holding on to him. That's just kind of how I'm feeling. Um, but so I think first let's talk about De'Aaron Fox. He's averaging 25, 5 and 6, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. A lot of people saying he's an all-star snub, right? So it's gonna have to be a big package for sure. A guy I look at or a team I look at, the Spurs. Spurs, they have a lot of young pieces, especially Stephon Castle. I mean, it would be crazy to give him up, but Stephon Castle for De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is still young. I think a package maybe centered around Stephon Castle and some picks, or maybe Devin Vassell and some picks. Um, it's going to be a big package, but I think the Spurs would be nice. I mean, oh, the Spurs would be nice because De'Aaron Fox and Wemby would feed families. I think 100%. Um, and I don't. Yeah, I like the Spurs. The other team I look at is the Rockets. The Rockets have a lot of really good young players that aren't getting a lot of time. This was what we talked about at the beginning of the season. So like players like Cam Whitmore, Jashawn Tate. They have Jock Landale. They have guys that they can move around along with some picks. I think it would be good. I think that if you could pair De'Aaron Fox, Jalen Green, and then maybe get Fred VanVleet coming off the bench, that would be a really gross team, and they'd be really deep as well with Fred with Van Vliet, who's having a good year, but uh not a crazy productive year. They don't have a guy, Pat. You know, they don't have a guy they can
Mhm.
go to down the stretch. A lot of times it's been Amen Thompson, who's great and he has clutched up and made some game winners. But I mean, do you want the clutchest player in the league and De'Aaron Fox on your team? Yes, I think it would be a big move. And this is a team that's still second in the West with no guy. So I think that it would be an aggressive move if and really a championship winning type of move. The Heat, of course, the Heat are always in talks now because they have Jimmy Butler and could try to trade him. It would be a great fit. Him and Hero, he would assume the one. Their point guard production has been terrible with Terry Rozier, and Terry Rozier is now under investigation. So who knows what's going on there? And then maybe the Magic. The Magic don't. I mean, they've been running Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, who's not even a point guard, is their shooting guard. Anthony Black has been getting a lot of playing time. These guys are really good, but I think that De'Aaron Fox would be a huge upgrade, and that is a team in the Magic who also have a lot of young pieces.
Yeah, I really like the Magic call out because I don't think they're getting enough love in these in a potential Fox trade. He would go there and be their number one scoring option like right away. Like even with Paolo and Franz healthy, like Fox is their best offensive player at that point. Um, I drew up a trade for San Antonio because I don't know, maybe I just really want to see the guy next to Wemby. There's also been rumors that Sacramento would like John Collins, so I drew up a little three-team trade. Kings get Steph Castle, John Collins, probably something else trade pick wise, but I just made the salaries match. Spurs get De'Aaron Fox, and then the Jazz get Zach Collins, Blake Wesley. They would probably get something for trading John Collins here and taking on the Zach Collins contract. Um, so that I drew that one up. I think this would allow Sacramento to still have a good team around Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan. I think there's a little bit of overlap between Fox and DeRozan. I think this would balance their roster with two pretty interesting defensive players in Castle and Collins. And then Spurs, you're getting De'Aaron Fox. Like, that's awesome. And giving up Steph Castle, first of all, it makes the money work a lot easier. And then second of all, like you're getting a guy who, or where was I going with that? You don't have to give up as many picks now that you give up Steph Castle, and I think that should be really interesting for San Antonio. So I like that one. I like Orlando a lot. I don't like Phoenix or not Phoenix, Houston as much because I kind of see them as the Phoenix players' destination if Phoenix guys are to become available with Booker and Durant because Houston has those Phoenix picks. And you already have Van Vliet. I really like Van Vliet and Booker together. And then next season when they can trade Jalen Green's contract for the full value of the extension, it makes matching money a lot easier. So I could definitely see like a Green for Booker swap with other stuff going back to Phoenix in a year or two if stuff doesn't get together for Phoenix. Um, that's how I feel about Fox. I could see Orlando or San Antonio being like, this is our time to make a move. But I do agree with you. Like, it is kind of something that just might not happen. Um, you,
It's a big trade. Like Fox is a huge name and he's still really young. So it's like one of those deals that like they're gonna have to get a really good return and will teams give that up? Like we saw when they traded Halliburton and they got Sabonis. It was a really good trade for the Kings. Um, but I don't know. It's going to be a lot. I think the most realistic is probably the Spurs because they do have Steph Castle, and Steph Castle has looked like one of the better rookies, and he plays a similar position or the same position. He plays point guard, yeah.
yeah,
Um, so I like the Spurs, but yeah, I'm with you. I don't know.
yeah. Because if you look at it compared to the old Kings trade where they traded for Sabonis with Halliburton, like in this scenario, Castle's Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox is Domantas Sabonis going back to San Antonio. That's how it feels. You hinted at it. Jimmy Butler is out there available. We're starting the Jimmy Butler talks. Did you have anybody in line with Jimmy Butler? And then Jimmy Butler's a weird conversation. I'll let you go first.
It's interesting, but I think that whatever rose from all so first Jimmy Butler, 17 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Um, this year he's shooting 36% from the 3 point line, 54% from the field. Numbers are interesting because has he been trying? Who knows? But I think the three teams you really have to look at here are the Warriors, the Nuggets, and the Suns. I think the most aggressive team is the Suns, especially the move they just made to acquire 3 first-round picks. Um, I think, right? Yeah.
For
So
one, so they got 2 extra wins.
yeah, oh yeah. To get 2 extra picks is definitely meaning that something is they want to get something done. With the Suns, it's going to be interesting because it's going to have to be a multiple team deal because they're in the second apron, correct?
Hmm.
Yeah. So so the Suns obviously that'd be a good. Um. Oh, geez. Bradley Beal. I think that since the Heat have or the Suns have Bradley Beal, I think that a lot of people have been talking about Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler. Bradley Beal's been one of the main pieces floated. Bradley Beal's been connected to Miami since 2018. But I think that that's kind of what the Suns would go with those first round picks. Maybe Bradley Beal if he waives his no trade clause. Right, everything's in his hand. Next team, I think the Nuggets could definitely do something here. Maybe trade MPJ. I think we talked about this the last episode. We did mock trades. I think the salaries would match maybe, or like it would definitely help if they moved MPJ.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that the Nuggets are a realistic option as well. Jimmy Butler definitely adds a lot more defense, and this is a team that is horrendous on defense. I was looking at it. I believe they're out of the top 15 defensive rating, but offensively they're like the fourth team. So an offensive rating. So a team that is just really badly needing some defense. Get Jimmy Butler, one of the lockdown defender, especially in the playoffs. And this is a team that's poised for the playoffs. And then another team, I think the Warriors. He could go to the Warriors. I think this is last effort ditch. The Suns or the Heat need to dump him. No one else wants him. Uh, Guys that could maybe be dealt. Thinking off the top of my head, maybe Pods. Uh, some of the guys that haven't worked out like they really thought they would. Maybe Buddy Hield you could end up sending.
it would
I
have
don't
to be Wiggins too. I'm pretty sure.
Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, so I think you get a similar player. Maybe Jimmy Butler's probably a little bit better at this point. Um, yeah, so I think it goes for me. It's Suns, Nuggets, Warriors. I think the Nuggets have a really simple way of doing it. I think the Suns is going to be really hard to get it done, and the Warriors are kind of my dark horse team.
Yeah, so for them, it would have to be Wiggins or Draymond going, and then you have to add like GP2, Buddy Healed, and then I think you'd have to get a third team involved to get an extra $4 million somewhere else. So it's going to be chaotic if there's a Warriors deal. It's definitely possible. Um, the team I like most though is Phoenix because I think they fundamentally change a lot if they get Jimmy Butler because right now their roster is so offensively slanted. Um, Especially if they're starting Beal out there, which they're kind of entitled to because they're not anymore, but he's making $50 million a year. Um, if I had to guess, I don't really know. All the rumors have been Miami's not very interested in Beal. Um, so for that reason, it's always seemed like there needs to be a third team involved, and that third team is never really very obvious. But I think I have a third team, and I'll throw it out there. Uh, Atlanta.
Oh,
They just
okay.
lost.
Yeah.
Uh, they just lost Jalen Johnson. That's their like secondary scorer. Um, they're still a pretty decent team right now. Like they're not towards the top of the East, but they're currently ninth. They're a couple games out of sixth. They could get some stuff done. And then if the deal that I drew up currently, Atlanta has About $30 million in expiring salary with Clint Capella and Larry Nance Jr. Um, that basically gets them to the Bradley Beal money. I think if you go to the offseason with Capella, he's not going to get $22 million. I would maximize now, especially while you have a Kongwu there. I would throw in Boyan or Bogdanovich, just because Bradley Beal's kind of a direct upgrade in a lot of ways from Bogdan. And basically, this is just capitalizing on Clint Capella and Larry Nance Jr. Like, they're never going to have $30 million that they can just throw out there because they're not going to have cap space anyway this offseason. Not max cap space, that is, at least. And you probably don't have to give up that much to get Bradley Beal. Um, so this is just a perfect opportunity, kind of what Dallas did a couple seasons ago, getting Kyrie Irving. Like, this is a good opportunity to get a star caliber player for not the type of trade you would have to give up to get a star caliber player. I know a lot of it has to do with the money that Beal's owed, but if there isn't a situation where he would waive his no trade clause, this could be one of them. And I think they have enough defensive pieces, especially since they're not giving any of them up, to hide a Beal and Trae Young duo, at least a little bit, because I think they're close to top 10 in defensive rating. Um,
I mean, with Dyson Daniels, you're chilling.
he's
Dyson
awesome.
Daniels, Okongwu, and also Okongwu's been taking over starting role for the Hawks recently, I
Yeah.
believe. So I think that the Capella trade would be nice. Like that'd be a very movable piece that they wouldn't be like. Yeah, I agree.
And then in Miami's instance, all the rumors that have come around is they won't win now players because their teams, they're also like currently sixth in the East. So they want to win now around Bam and Tyler Hero. And they also want expiring money because there is light at the end of the tunnel for them to at least have some flexibility down the line. So you get Clint Capella and Boyan or Bogdan, who can go and contribute to this current team a little bit, even though they already have some centers with Khalil Ware and Bam. But I think you can make that trio of Clint, Khalil, and Bam work as a three center rotation. And then I mean Bogdan, sure, there's some overlap with Tyler Hero, but you're about to lose Terry Rozier. Like, it's not looking good for Terry Rozier. So,
Yeah, it's not looking good at all for him.
I mean, you get Bogdan to replace the scoring Jimmy's giving you, and the scoring Terry Rozier was giving you, and then I can see like a seventh, sixth seed team out of that roster still because they haven't gotten too much from Jimmy with suspensions and the Jimmy Butler regular season experience, and on the part of Phoenix, like Jimmy Butler, like he's a two-way player. They don't have any of those guys. Like they have offensive players and they have defensive players. Jimmy Butler, I think, can bridge a lot of the gaps that they can't really do with Beal, Booker, and Durant, who like have such similar games. So being able to do that, I think will really help. And then it brings a defensive player into the starting lineup that you don't have to worry about uh, not being an offensive player. And then, I mean, they can get really flexible with those lineups. They've just recently got Nick Richards. I think also with them, they still have the Grayson Allen money. They still have the use of Nurkic money. They probably don't have to give up both of their picks here because um, Miami's getting Capella and Bogdan from Atlanta. So you probably only have to give up a singular pick. Um, So like there's a good opportunity for them to still get more at this deadline to strengthen up a little bit. So I think this is a deadline where Phoenix is probably going to make multiple moves, and I don't know how possible Jimmy Butler is to get traded, but I think if he is, he's going to Phoenix. So
All right, there it
you got any
is.
more Jimmy Butlers?
I think I got no more Jimmy Butlers.
Okay, I had written down Nets guys, um, Bulls guys, Julius
Mm-hmm.
Randle, Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Ingram. What's going
Mm-hmm.
out? What's going on in the Western Conference?
Yeah. So we'll start with the who. Where do you want to start here, Pat? You want to go? You want to go? Oh. What are we starting with? We going
Let's
Bulls
run through
guys,
the
Nets
let,
guys, or wherever what you just said?
let's run through the Nets guys real quick.
All right.
Cam Johnson, I think he's getting dealt. Like it's very likely he's going to. They've already traded DFS. Um, there's still some guys there. Like I think a team could like Keon Johnson. I think a team could like Zaire Williams. I think some teams could like some of those guys. I don't even think Cam Thomas is impossible to be moved. Um, do any of these guys stand out for any teams for you?
Probably Cam Johnson the most, just because like you said, he's probably gonna get dealt. Really good 3-and-D guy. He's averaging 19.4 points per game, off of 41% from the 3-point line. He's taking about 3 to 7 of them a game. So really good stuff from Cameron Johnson. I look at a team that really could use some nice perimeter outside shooting. These two teams that will be making a championship like move, and that's the Thunder and Cavs for me, Pat. Those are the two guys I'm really looking at. Thunder have a plethora of picks, a lot of young guys. So really, and I think that the Cam Johnson move would just bolster them. They have some perimeter outside shooting with Isaiah Joe, but he's very hit or miss, very streaky shooter. And a lot of the guys are around average shooting the three, about 35% or lower. I think Cam Johnson he's a knockdown shooter. They could probably find a way to insert him into the starting lineup, but if not, coming off the bench, I think would be kind of a cheat code. Um, and then for uh, the Cavs are good. The Cavs are already really good, but I mean, they have a guy like Dean Wade who's kind of like their 3-point knockdown shooter from that position. And we've seen him start in a lot of games. I think Cam Johnson would be a huge upgrade from Dean Wade. Not to take anything away from Dean Wade, he's having a great year, but you get a little bit better shooting and you get a lot better defense. So I think if the Cavs want to make a push and not be called frauds and make it past the first and second round, I think this would be a legitimate move to help bolster them. And if the Thunder make this move, I don't see how anyone else could beat them in the league.
Yeah. I think Cam Johnson is a player that a lot of teams should have their eye on. He kind of fits everywhere. I think we'd mocked him to Atlanta, probably another team as well in our other mock trades episode. So I think he's really fun. And I think the other two guys, Zaire Williams and Keon Johnson, they're really affordable. Just about any team can fit them into their cap space. Um, so those are two really interesting guys. Chicago guys are a little bit tougher to deal, but I think they're still interesting. Vucevic, Lonzo, Zach LaVine. We talked about it preseason. You were a lot higher in Chicago than I was, so I have to give you this credit. They've done a good job hedging here and saying, hey, we're going to replenish value on these guys. I think just about all of them they've replenished value on. I think
100%.
there's no way Levine, it's like a night and day. I've
Yeah.
been wanting to shout him out for a couple weeks now because his play's been just about what, a couple years ago Zach LaVine was. Lonzo,
He went on like the 5.30 plus per game in certain games, and he hasn't looked back. I mean, he's been dropping that consistently. It's crazy.
yeah. Lonzo's been healthy. I think that is like a huge value replenishment with him. And then Vooch has been playing a lot better than he was a year ago. Like they've replenished value on these guys, and like you gotta pull the trigger now on some of these guys. If you can line something up for Levine, do it now. I would think
Yes, I like that. I agree.
it's gonna be really hard too because he's got a $46 billion contract and a 10% trade kicker. So it's gonna be really hard to line that one up, but I'm sure they could. And then for Lonzo, he's making about $20 million. I think that could be possible. And then you got Vooch, who's making also around $20 million. You can find places for these guys. Any obvious fits for them that pop out on your side?
Yeah, we'll start with Nikola Vucevic, and you're gonna hear two teams that I brought up with the other center we just talked about, and that's the Lakers and Warriors. The Laker or AD really like AD has told the Lakers he wants to play the 4. He doesn't want to play the 5 anymore. Nikola Vucevic comes in, plays the 5, gives you a 3-point threat. He's shooting 39% this year, and he's taking a good bit, 1 to 4. He's averaging 19.9 points per game, 10 rebounds. He's been able to hold it down a little bit defensively, at least a lot more than Jonas is. I think it would be a good fit for the Lakers. You get a big man. I mean, that means your whole team can shoot with AD and Vooch. There'd be a lot of floor spacing, a lot of good floor spacing, and I think that JJ Redick could draw up some nice plays for him when they need a fourth score bucket. And it would just help solidify them as a roster. I mean, it would be a really nice starting 5. Another team is the Warriors. The Warriors don't have a center. They're sitting around that 12, 11, 10 mark in the West. A move like this, I think, would help them a lot. Instead of having to play Draymond at the 5, Kevon Looney at the 5, Trace Jackson Davis at the 5, who are all like 6'9", maybe 6'10". I don't think any of those guys are 7-footers. Vooch gives you some size. And then having those guys come off the bench, I think, is just a role that they're way more primed for. You don't really, I mean, yeah. But I think those would be my probably 2 fits. Just teams that really need centers and are going to be aggressive. I think that the Lakers want to they want to make a move. They're 5th right now in the West. They're sitting pretty, but they do want to add a little bit more. I think Vooch would be a great fit.
100%. I think an interesting Lonzo team. Minnesota could be a really interesting Lonzo team.
I wrote
Julius
that.
Randle, it would be the salary that you probably have to send the other way. It's just a way for them to get a playmaker out there. They can really lean into the defensive side of the floor, and then you would hope that the offense and shooting ability of Lonzo kind of still helps them to be solid on the offensive side of the floor. They have to take something else back, $11 million apart. So you'd either have to involve a third team or send something else to Minnesota. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible to get something like that lined up. And I like that as a fit for Chicago or for Minnesota. And then you get Julius Randle, like that's another guy who they could just try to play the replenish trade value game on, because he's gonna opt in after the season. Like there's no way he opts out after all the negativity around him in Minnesota. So I think he's gonna opt in, and hopefully they can do it again like they did with their guys this year.
Yeah, another interesting team I think for Lonzo could be the Pistons and the Clippers. The Pistons have losing Jaden Ivey hurts a lot. And this is a guy that could go in and start at the 1 for you. Cade's running the 1, and their shooting guard has been Malik Beasley
Yeah,
recently. Malik Beasley's great, but he's even better off the bench. Lonzo Ball stepping in, I think, would be great. Maybe Cade doesn't have to handle the ball as much. I don't know. I don't know what they would do with that. But not like Cade can't handle the ball. And then another team, the Clippers. They have Chris Dunn. They don't, and then their backup guards are like Bones Highland and not really anything too crazy. So I think this would just be a move to solidify the backup position behind Harden and that shooting guard position behind Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn's great. Really good lockdown defender. Just doesn't really give you too much offense.
yeah. I think the Clippers would be a little bit easier to do it for. They would have to give up uh, either Zubac or Man, but they would probably choose Man, and then they would have to give up Derrick Jones Jr. as well. Um, so you could argue that it's not making them that much better, but they can get it done if they feel like Lonzo was an upgrade for them as well. So yeah, that does it with the Chicago guys. Brandon Ingram to me, I think, is like kind of a microcosm of the Jimmy Butler and Bradley Beal stuff, where it's like he's really good and probably one of the better players available here, but it's just going to be really hard to find a spot for him with how much money he's making, the situation the Pelicans are in. And I think they want to move him because of the emergence of Trey Murphy, but it's going to be really hard. So Do you have any Brandon Ingram?
Um, I I don't have too much. I think that maybe if the Pelicans want him, or sorry, if they could maybe if the Pelicans want a center like Miles Turner, maybe they could ship Brandon Ingram for Miles Turner. They don't really have a big center. The Miles Turner talks I'm not too interested in though. I really don't think he moves. Maybe you could swap him with Zach LaVine and a little bit of money um, for the Bulls to get him. But besides that, I don't have too much on Brandon Ingram. But those are just kind of two teams just off the top of my head that I'm thinking about. Maybe
Yeah,
it would be weird to go from like Zach LaVine to Brandon Ingram and some picks, and it would be interesting to see him on this Pacers. But like I said, I really don't entertain the Miles Turner stuff too much because I just don't think he's leaving.
yeah. I don't. Miles Turner, for those who don't know, the Pacers cannot extend him because of when they signed him to his prior extension, so he has to hit free agency. But I mean, Indiana's just a perfect place for him to play. So I don't really buy into any Miles Turner trade talks. So, did you have any other guys that you wanted to throw out there?
I actually think we got to them all. I'll just say I think Nurkic leaves. I'd be shocked if he stays. So like you said, the Suns are gonna be busy. I think Nurkic is gonna be a part. A sneaky team to look out for. Maybe the Raptors could trade Bruce Brown.
Yeah.
Seen some stuff about that. The Raptors, like they're actually fighting for a playing spot right now. I think they're 11th or 12th, which is crazy.
12.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe you trade Bruce Brown to a team like the Miami Heat could do that. But yeah, besides that, I think we talked about all of them. It's gonna be an active deadline though. Hopefully.
Also, shout out Portland. Rob Williams, I think is going to get moved somewhere, making 12 million. Pretty easy to get him somewhere. Like you could send him to Sacramento
Hmm.
without even them sending a salary back because they have the mid-level exception still. Um, Chris Murray, Tamani Kamara, Jabari Walker, like teams are going to want these type of guys. And I'm sure Portland wants to hold on to a lot of those guys as well. And then like Jeremy Grant, Ayton, Simons are a little bit harder to move, but I'm sure they could find interest in some of those guys. I don't know how much selling they're going to do. I do think Rob Williams will be a guy who gets moved. Um, that's just a Portland shout out. We're going to go forward to the last part of this episode where we're talking about some contenders now. All right, we're talking
Oh
about the
yeah, oh
big
yeah.
boys. Um, to start, we both went over and we accumulated some numbers on teams who we think could legitimately win the championship this year. I'm interested. How many teams did you get in the contenders? I'm sure you might have had a favorites tier.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I have
And
a favorites tier and a championship contenders tier.
read
Um.
those both
So
off to me.
okay. So I think Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, Thunder.
Okay. Was that both of those tiers?
And then these are my championship contenders.
Okay.
I have the wait, did I say Bucks? I don't want the Bucks there. I want Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, Thunder. Championship contenders, I got the Bucks, Rockets, and Grizzlies. Um yeah. Those are my guys. Those are the cream of the crop in my opinion. Uh the Cavs, Celtics, Bucks, Knicks, Thunders, Rockets, Grizzlies. The Knicks, I'm a little bit worried about the defense, just a tiny bit. Um their rating is
14.
14th defensively.
Think
Thank you.
so.
Yeah, 14th. 14th defensively. A little worried about that, but a game I just watched when they played the Grizzlies, I was blown away. I know a lot of people were on that game for the Knicks, but I was just honestly blown away. I think that Tom Thibodeau is a coach that knows how to coach in the playoffs, and they have the roster that can do it. Um, and they have and they're one of the teams that play a lot of their starters. And in the fourth quarter, you need your starters on the floor, and you need guys that know how to do that. I think the Knicks. That's why I really like the Knicks. The Cavs. The Cavs are. Oh, jeez. Cavs are first in offensive rating, eighth in
Yep.
defensive rating. The defense is losing it a little bit, but they still have Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. They have a freaking the Twin Towers down there. It's hard to go in and score a bucket on them. It's going to be interesting to see how they go in the. I think that this is a team that you don't want to go into a 7-game series with, because yeah, you might blow them out maybe one game, you might beat them one game, but I think the Cavs are just really good and they're going to wear you down defensively, and it's going to suck to be the opposing team's center, and then you have to go and guard uh, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, two All-Stars, really good stuff. And we talk about the Celtics. The Celtics are really gross. Third in offensive rating, fifth in defensive rating. I'm interested to see how the 3-point offense will work in the playoffs. Because they really do. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, but they rely a lot on their 3-point shooting.
Highest all
So
time. 50,
yeah,
50 a game is crazy.
So this is a team that but I'm not gonna say they're gonna live by it. I think that they'll be fine in doing it. They have guys that can close out games. They have guys that have been there before. If Kristaps is healthy in the playoffs, this is gonna be a really gross team, Pat. I don't know if you recently watched him like drain like 6 or 7 threes in a game he just played, but really good stuff. The Grizzlies is a team I like as well. The Grizzlies are really good. They, like I said, I was shocked when the Knicks like BTA'd them. They're fifth in offensive rating, sixth in defensive rating. I think that we might see them make a move to kind of solidify it, but they're an interesting team. They're a team that you don't expect to be here. I think a lot of people don't really understand how good of a team this is. Um, Definitely something to look at. I don't really have to explain the Thunder too much. I think they're the championship favorites. I think this is the team that will probably be lifting the Larry O'Brien Trophy at the end of the year. And then the Rockets. The Rockets are such a solid team, Patrick. Amen Thompson has also been coming on as well.
My
Their
guy.
their offensive rating is a little bit, like we said, it's because it's so spread out. And they're third in defensive rating. And I don't think Jabari Smith has been playing that. Is he hurt?
He's currently hurt, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they don't even have their full team. Tari Eason just came back. He's been getting into things. This is going to be a really fun team to watch, Pat, in the playoffs.
I had 7 teams as well. I had 6 of the same 7. To start, um, typically when we talk about contenders, we are saying, do you have a top 10 offense, top 10 defense? There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there is 5, unless, yeah, there is 5 teams in the league right now who have a top 10 in both. Do you know who those 5 are?
Top 10 in both.
Yeah.
Um, Cavs,
Yes.
Celtics,
Yeah.
Bucks.
No.
No. Knicks.
Uh,
Oh no, not Knicks. Not Knicks. Not Knicks. Not Knicks. Thunder.
yes.
Grizzlies.
Yes.
And Piss. No, can't be the Pacers. Clippers.
Okay.
Uh, Lakers. I don't know. I don't know the
So
last like two or one.
the last one, they are 12th in offense on Basketball Reference, but they are 10th on NBA.com. It's the
That makes
Rockets.
sense. Oh,
So
well,
they're
because when I
sneaky.
just looked at them, they were 12th. Like
Yeah.
whatever I was looking at had them 12. So yeah, that's on me. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's 2 different calculations. I think Basketball Reference, it's different depending on how they count offensive rebounds, I think is the basic reasoning of why it's different. Um, but yeah, the Rockets are a huge offensive rebounding team. It typically doesn't change much. Like the Knicks, I think, are second in both. But the Rockets jump from 10 to 12, depending on which one you look at. Those are the top 10 guys, or the top 10 teams in both. I think my 2 contenders who are not are both missing it on defense. The 13th ranked Knicks, according to basketball or according to NBA.com, and then the Denver Nuggets, who are a lot lower on
The defense,
NBA.
though.
Yeah, they're a lot lower defensively. They're like 21st versus on Basketball Reference, they were a little bit higher. No, they are still 21st. Well, when I got the numbers last night, I think they were 17th. So I guess they had a horrible night last night that dropped them 4 spots because that would make me a little bit more hesitant on Denver.
Yeah, but they might make some moves to make that defense a little bit better.
Yeah,
They might have to.
for reference, what was this night that they had last night? What happened? Because uh, it's, whatever. Well, I'll get my other notes that I wrote down on teams. Um,
They gave up
Milwaukee,
134. They gave up 134 points to the 76ers.
jeez. Oh yeah, that's a bad one too. Um, yeah, that's rough. Um, to
No
start,
Embiid, no Paul George.
okay,
All right, let's get what's next. What's the next tier? I got dark horses. What do you have?
we'll get the dark horses in a second. Let me get my contender stuff.
Oh, sorry, I
Cavs.
didn't know you were done. My bad.
I just wanted to throw out those teams. The Knicks, I guess they're missing their best defensive player right now, and since like December, I think they're top 10, like comfortably since December.
Their best
Um,
defender being Mitchell Robinson.
yeah,
Okay.
or most impactful because
No, no,
he
no.
he
I'm
he
with you.
erases a ton of
I
stuff.
just I just wanted to
Clarify.
clarify for the audience. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Cavs I think, are pretty legit. Um, Typically with them, a year ago, their starting four, like their four All-Star caliber players, when they were all out there together, they were +5, which is really good. But when they were separated by one big and one guard, they were like +12. This year, when their top four guys are all out there together, they're +9, which is a lot better than the +5. But back in 2023, when they were a first round exit, they were +11. So I really don't know how to feel about the Cavs, but this is the best that they've ever looked offensively, which I think was the big thing with them is their offense just it was kind of carried by the two guards being as fantastic as they are, and now I think they are a legitimately well-run offense. So I still have some faith in Cleveland for sure. Thunder, they're the best defense of all time. I think relative to league average defense, I think they're like 9 points below league average, which is the best mark of all time, which is ridiculous. They've been hurt too, I think is the crazy part. They've been missing reliable center play for basically all year.
Yep.
I think they're 23-2 since Isaiah Hartenstein has played, um, which is crazy. Um, New York, second ranked offense, best they've ever looked there. 14th ranked defense, best. Yeah, it's all right. And then I think the real thing with them is the backup center spot, like, is kind of weird. Um, you go Towns, he's not a great rim protector, but he rebounds the ball really well. Neither of the backup options they've had have ever rebounded the ball well. Sims and Achua don't do it for you, and yeah, it gets really rough. And then there's a ton of lineups too when Josh Hart is the four next to those guys, and the team's just ridiculously small, and they get killed with Josh Hart at the four next to one of those two guys. Um, Boston, with me, I'm a little bit concerned, not because they haven't been very good, but their starting five this season is +4,
Oh,
which is still a good mark. But then if you remove KP and you put Horford in, they're +19. And then with Cornette, they're +11.
huh.
So KP's been a step slow. I think a lot of that's recovering from injury. We'll see how it progresses, but there's something to that, I think.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting. Huh.
Houston, they offensive rebound. They don't turn the ball over with Sengun and Van Vliet. Defensively, they're awesome. I think when Amen Thompson and Tari Eason are on the floor, they just have a ridiculous amount of live ball turnovers. It's really great. That just directly lead to dunks. It's crazy. Uh, Denver, I wrote them down. They had a horrible night last night. Non-Jokic minutes are rough, but they're getting a little bit better. They've been starting Russ recently next to Murray. Um, in non-Jokic minutes, Christian Braun, Jamal Murray, Porter Jr., Peyton Watson are plus 15. So I think there's enough to hedge in the playoffs when Jokic goes to the bench. And then Memphis, they're top 5 in offense and top 7 in defense. So that's like a really strong indicator. In 110 minutes, they're starting 5 of Wells, Bane, Morant, Edey, and Jaren Jackson. What do you think their net rating is in 110 minutes with those 5?
Their net rating. Oh, okay. Like plus. I'm gonna go plus 15, 20. Plus 15, 20. Is
You're
that?
being
Am I?
aggressive
Oh, okay.
because like the Jokic ones are like
Yeah.
with
Give me some
Denver,
reference. Give me some reference here.
the Jokic ones with Denver are like plus 20 something. And I understand you were being aggressive, but you didn't even go all the way. They are plus 38 and a half with
Oh,
their starting
yeah.
5 out there, which
Yeah.
is crazy. And in
Yeah.
Memphis is like they have so much depth that there's just not a ton of minutes out there where they run their starting 5. So I think there could be some playoff improvement with this team because I mean they're killing people with their starting lineup. Um, it's just I was actually shocked, and a lot of it comes down to Jaren Jackson and Edey being out there, and it just like kills teams because you're not getting offensive rebounds, which is why they could be a really tough matchup for Houston in the second round if they are the second and third seeds. Um, this is kind of what I wanted to get to in this episode. I mean, Memphis, I think, is scary. I've always loved Houston because of their defense, but I mean, Memphis could be just their kryptonite with how big they are.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, we've seen it before. Teams that are better, but just they're not. They're not matchup. The matchup just sucks for them. And they're not able to keep up. We see that a lot of times in the playoffs.
yeah, 100%. Dark horses. Okay, I had 3 teams that I did want to mention.
Is this okay?
So like, whatever your tier after these 7 teams are,
These are dark horses. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I have them.
All right, I would include Denver in this now after the game that they just had that lowered their defensive rating a ton. So for me, I had 4 teams. I guess you include Denver in here. Dallas, they've been injured, holding on. They've been one of the few teams that have beaten the Thunder this season, and they've done it 3 times. And then
That's the PJ
Minnesota,
Washington effect right there, Pat.
Minnesota as well. SRS is, basically opponent quality adjusted net rating. Minnesota is 8th, only behind the 7 teams that I had in the contenders tier, and I guess Denver now since I bumped them down. Dallas was 10th, and they've been playing a lot of the season without Luka. Kyrie's missed a couple games here and there. Those guys are there. And then my other team is Indiana because they have turned it around like so much. And I think if there is a East team besides those top 3 that scares me the most, like Indiana turning it on, especially with what they did in the playoffs last year and how unique that they play, I think Indiana's kind of the team if I had to pick another East team. So I'll let you get yours off real quick.
Yeah, so I also have the Nuggets as well. I also have the Pacers too. Really like the Pacers. Like you said, they've been clicking lately. They're 26-20. Things have been going up since when we were talking about them. I'm just a little bit concerned about the defense. That's why I didn't really have them as a championship contender. Um, I like the Suns, man. I have the Suns in this one, especially with ways things have been coming together. And the biggest thing for me is that they were able to go out and get Nick Richards. That trade has been huge for them, Pat. Nick Richards' game has been really just he's been in there. He's making an impact. It was a really good trade for them. A team that has been lacking. They've been starting Mason Plumlee over Nurkic. The Nick Richards move was huge, and I'm sure they're not done. And if everything's healthy, when you have KD and Book in the playoffs, I mean, how can you not have a chance? You know. Um, Next, I also had the Mavericks as well. Like you said, Luke has been hurt. When they come back, they'll be really good. Kyrie's been assuming that one role, and they've just been dealing with a lot of injuries. There's been a lot of instances where PJ Washington will be out, Kyrie will be out, some role players will be out. They've been having a lot of tough luck, and when they become healthy in the playoff time, this is going to be a team that, like how we talked about being near the top of the West Conference at the beginning of the season. Um, I like the Clippers too. I have the Clippers up there, man. Um, their defensive rating is insane. That's the main
It
thing.
is.
They're second in the defense. They're second in the NBA in defensive rating. This is a lockdown team. Chris Dunn, lockdown. You have Kawhi. You have Big Zoo. A lot of really good wings. Derrick Jones Jr., Kevin Porter Jr. This is a fun team. They're a dark horse for me. They're probably at their I just think that this is a team that can compete. They're 28-20. They give a lot of teams fits. Um, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Go ahead.
I didn't write down the Lakers,
Me either.
but I kind of want to put them as a dark horse. I think I'm gonna put them as a dark horse because they have AD, LeBron, Austin Reeves. They're still 27-19. People talk about them like they're not. I think this is a team that they're probably. I think it's the Lakers. I'm like, I'm saying dark horse because I think they're better than the play-in teams. I can't put the Clippers and Lakers as play-in teams. I don't think they deserve that title. And then another team I'm kind of like on the fence on is the Pistons. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that when it comes playoff time, the inexperience might show itself a little bit, and just the youngness of this team. But I think they're a very interesting team to watch, especially when you got Cade Cunningham.
I think the Pistons are a team that if you are not prepared for them, like they can get you. Like I think the Knicks have lost 2 games to the Pistons this year, and I've watched the full games. Cade will go on runs, dude. Like he he's
Especially after he'll do nothing all game and then just go crazy, just randomly.
I think everybody talks about it with him. Like you think he's moving very slowly because he's always in control, and then he'll kick up this next gear where he just puts his head down, gets to his spots, and like there's not much you can do about it. It's kind of like Luca-esque where he's not more athletic than you, but he's so much more skilled with his handle that he can just maneuver into his spots like by command. Shea very similar in that aspect. Like Kate is ridiculous, and all the shooting around him. Like I think you can make something work there to steal a playoff series. Um, Lakers for me, they are 13th in offensive rating, 20th in defensive rating. Negative net rating. Their SRS score 16th, so they're below average there. And then LeBron. I did a video about LeBron. His numbers have gotten a little bit better since I did the video, but do you want to guess what LeBron's on-off is?
-10.
Okay, that was actually a really good guess. It's minus 8.8.
Okay, nice. All right. Damn, that's crazy. It's so weird.
If they restructure their team, I think I can ignore that because there might be a less redundancy of LeBron on this Lakers team if LeBron can play the 4. I think is the big deal, and they can get somebody else out there as a defensive impact wing. But yeah, I I think LeBron's a little more over the hill than the talking heads will tell you. Because I mean, it hasn't been this way. Last year he was plus 9.9. The year before that he was plus 8.8. Now he's minus 8.8. And I did a video on it. It's not entirely LeBron's play. A lot of it's the fit on this team as well, but I think some of it is, how he plays the game of basketball at this point. I'm concerned about them. I think if they're in a playoff series and they are compelled to still play LeBron James in a playoff series because he's LeBron James, but it's legitimately making them worse. Like there's a lot of answers that I don't want to look for if I'm JJ Redick. That's how I feel about the Lakers. We both like Indiana in this range. One quick thing before we wrap this one up. If you're in the Eastern Conference right now, would you rather be the 1 seed or would you rather be the 2 or 3 seed?
1 seed plays the winner of the 1 seed plays the 8, and then who would they play next? The 2 or 3?
The 4/5 seed.
And then the 2 or 3, or what was the 2 or 3? Who would they play? Or the 3 or 4 they would play?
For me, okay. Let me explain it this way.
You go first. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just say everything ended how it was, or
Right now.
let's not say that because I think if it ended how it was right now, you would rather have the 1 seed. But
Yeah.
there's a certain Eastern Conference team who I think if they get into the playoffs, I don't know where I would have them, but it would be a lot higher than their seeding.
Is
And
this the team that we're not allowed to talk about?
we're not allowed to talk about a certain team that has an African center. Yeah. Let me let me do that one over again,
Yeah.
Brad.
Let's not do that. Let's take that one out.
What's his Cameroonian? There we go.
There you go.
So we're not allowed to talk about a certain Eastern team with a Cameroonian center. Um, they're currently the 11th seed, 2 games behind Chicago, 3 games behind Atlanta, and they've been like ridiculously hurt all year.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about them, but I think that they are a potentially harder first round matchup than like Miami, Detroit, Orlando, Atlanta, Chicago.
You know what? I think back to your question, I'd rather get like that kind of middle of the pack seeding, because you could see a team like, do you want to play Atlanta to start off your 7-game series? Do you want to play a team with the Magic, who will have a healthy Franz and Paulo? It would be a really tough matchup, but then you go and you have to play the Knicks or possibly the Bucks. It's yeah, I think I'd probably rather get the middle of the pack, because I'm gonna go middle of the pack seed.
So the 1 seed to face the middle of the pack. Yeah. Just for me, the way I was looking at it, I was like, I'd rather avoid that tough play-in matchup because
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I don't think Philly's going to make it to the 8th seed to have a chance to be the 7th seed in the playoffs. But they could be the 10th seed and fight their way to be the 8th seed. Like that's
so
possible.
you would rather not have the 1 seed, is what you're saying?
Yeah, because how I see
Okay.
it,
Yeah, I'm
like,
with you.
and then like facing Milwaukee or Indiana, like I would rather face any of the other potential playoff teams than Milwaukee or Indiana. And then like I just think it's more likely that you don't. I guess not, because one of the 2 teams isn't going to make it. So I was going to say I think it's more likely that you don't make it past the second round if you're the 2 or 3 seed, but no, because one of them literally can't. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just an interesting thing for teams to consider. I think the 2 seed though, I might rather have the 2 seed than the 1 seed. It depends on how everything shapes out, but
I mean, yeah, I think that's a realistic option for everyone that's not the Cavs, because I mean, they have a 5-game lead right now. It'd be hard to lose it, especially the pace they're playing at, even though the Celtics and Knicks are keeping up. But yeah, I think there's a real battle for the 2 seed right now. I think the Cavs. I don't want to say it this early, but they have a really good chance of locking up that one.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap this one up, let's just stamp our favorites. I'm still all over OKC.
Yeah, I don't see another team besides OKC winning this.
Yeah.
So I guess who's the threat to OKC? Would you say out of the contender teams that you have?
Um, maybe this is another day thing.
Okay, all
I
right,
think this is a good one to pop out in a couple weeks or two.
all right.
Who we think the threat to OKC is?
I like that. It's a
Win
good question.
projection. Who do we think is gonna like? What do you think the highest win total this year is gonna be? Because we have
This
two
year,
teams really pushing who haven't even lost 10 games yet.
we're gonna see 60.
Yeah, it's gonna start with the
We're gonna see
six.
60 wins, maybe 65. With that, yeah, I think 65. I think 65 and up. I don't know if they can. I don't know if the Thunder can hit 70. They already got
I,
9 losses, so I think 65 is kind of the range we'll see for highest win. What
I don't think OKC will have the chance because, like you said, they've already lost 9.
exactly?
Cleveland, I think, is a little more interesting because there's Boston. Like if Boston gets really hot, like Cleveland has to win to be the 1 seed, and like could they hit a 70? Like that would be only 3 more losses, but like they could get really close.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think we see like 65 to like 65 up. I don't know 70, especially because they're already at 9 losses each.
Yeah.
It'd be really hard, and we're still not at the All Star break yet, even though we're about to get there. Um, so I think there's a lot of games left. I think there's a lot of opportunities to lose, and there's a lot like the regular season is such a toss up with games, especially this year. I don't know. 70 would be crazy. I think 70 is a stretch, but I think 65 is very easily attainable for these teams.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that'll do it for this one. Glad we've gotten this is a really good one. I hope this one gets some views. Um, Next week's episode, like I said, we'll do the reactions to the All-Star Game draft, and then the episode will come out a couple days later. Um, and that'll be a recap of what happened at the trade deadline. So we'll see you guys that one. Yeah, I'll do it for this.